the Healing Through Love podcast with Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson. In episode 97, Erica Wiederlight discusses with us how we can integrate pleasure into our daily lives that can be used as a healing modality.
And I check in with myself and I see on a scale, am I feeling crunchy? Am I feeling dusty, crusty? Am I feeling like, oh, maybe my shoulder, like I'm just like, ugh. Or am I feeling turned on? And turned on doesn't mean sexually. It just means I'm alive. I'm present in the moment. I'm jamming. I'm feeling good. Where are we on the scale? And there's no judgment. There's no wrongness. We just get to get curious about this. Where are we on the scale? And if you are feeling crunchy and dusty crusty, as we do, because we're humans, like a dial, how can we dial it up more? 1 or 2 dials, what would that look like? And maybe for someone, it's like, I'm going to sit back, take a breath. Maybe I'm going to get a tea while I work. Maybe I'm going to listen to that beautiful music on Spotify while I work, So it doesn't have to be, I always joke, it doesn't have to be you in a chaise lounge being fed grapes.
Welcome to another episode of Healing Through Love. Each week, we share ideas, experiences, and resources to increase the awareness of domestic and family violence and to empower survivors to grow and thrive. We talk with experts who share their advice, or with people who have experienced abuse, no matter where they are on their journey. This is all about healing through love. And now, here are your hosts, Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to the Healing Through Love podcast, the space where stories of strength, resilience and transformation unfold. I'm your host, Rose Davidson, and I'm honoured to be your guide on this journey of empowerment and healing. Today we have a very special episode tailored just for you. Whether you're driving, sipping your cup of tea, or simply taking a moment for yourself, I want you to know that you are in a safe space. Healing Through Love is more than a podcast. It's a community. It's a beacon of hope and a reminder that you are not alone. In this episode, we have a guest who will share a story that resonates with the core of our mission. It's a story that illuminates the power of love, resilience, and the unwavering strength that lies within each of us. So settle in, take a very deep breath and let the healing journey begin. Before we kick off today's episode, just a quick reminder, if you find value in our episodes, please consider supporting us by subscribing, sharing and leaving a review. Your engagement helps us to reach more hearts and spread the message of healing. It's my very great pleasure to introduce to you Erica Wiederlight. And Erica is going to be talking to us about healing with pleasure. And she wants to discuss with us how integrating pleasure in our daily lives can be used as a healing modality. And a little bit about Erica, she is the confidence and pleasure coach. She's a speaker and she's a podcaster. Her work helps clients feel aligned, radiant, and fabulous. She works with clients on everything in their lives, including sexual empowerment, dating, love, pleasure, embodiment, and more. Her podcast, Welcome to The Wiederlife, is a top charting podcast where she discusses all things empowerment. Her work has been featured in Epoch Times, Galore, and Cosmopolitan magazine. And you can read more about her at wethelight.org. Erica, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited for this really important chat.
We were discussing before we came on about how healing with pleasure can assist those that have been through domestic violence.
Yeah. I'm really glad that, and why I was so attracted to your work and this important mission is, for me, I see it all the time, and I help folks integrate pleasure back into their lives. Often, with sexual domestic violence, our power or safety has been ripped away from us. It's been taken away from us. And that's why pleasure is or can be so potent because it can be a reclamation and we can make it solely ours again and safe again.
Yeah, it's a lot of us as women, we forego sexual pleasure because we think, well, either we're not worthy of it or we've been abused in some way that it has taken away our enjoyment of the finer things in life. How can we as women reconnect with those feelings and bring pleasure back into our lives after being traumatized?
Yeah, I love this. And it depends on who I'm working with, but usually I never suggest going from 0 to 60. Because, right, it feels like, whoa, sexual empowerment, like that's a lot. Like that's a tough pill to swallow. Like, whoa. And so what I like to presence first and foremost with working with people is just pleasure, point blank. So today I went for a swim and I was like, and I remember as I was doing my little swim, I was like, it's safe to have pleasure. It's safe to enjoy being in my body. So I like to presence first and foremost pleasure in the everyday. So whether it's you're going out for a swim, you're enjoying that delicious tea or kombucha, you're listening to jazz music and you're really hearing the guitar or whatever notes, what I first always suggest is first and foremost, before jumping into sexual empowerment, which we could always talk about, I always suggest how can we invite more just pleasure into our lives? And people are like, that's cool, Erica, what does that mean? And so what I always suggest is starting with the five senses. So like I said before, like hearing, maybe touching, smelling. If you don't have access to all of your senses, that's fabulous. We can lean more heavy on one. But I really do like to integrate pleasure first as just a tool that we live our life with. And then when it feels safe and we feel deserving of it, we can shift into talking about sexual pleasure, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely does, because a lot, sex for some people is just like, no, I'm not doing it, because they've either been sexually assaulted or just abused in some other way that has taken all of that pleasure away. So how can we actually, I guess, find the way to get that pleasure? So what are the steps that we would take to start from 0 to 60 and find and those steps along the way that we should be taking or can take to find the pleasure that we deserve?
I love that. I think first and foremost is setting an intention around it and really trying to honor that. I know sometimes, well, actually, this is twofold. I'm like, wait, now that I say that, first and foremost, backtracking, like reversing, is I think identifying the stories that we hold around pleasure. Because I knew for me, I didn't want to run towards pleasure because I was like, it's disgusting, it's lazy. Like I had all of these stories. It's indulgent. It's a prize that you get after, the blood, sweat, and tears. So I already had so many stories on pleasure that I was like, I'm not running towards this. So first and foremost, I always like to help people unpack what stories, what beliefs do you hold around pleasure, and what do you want to hold, or like what is the vision that you have for pleasure? Excuse me. And then once we identify that vision, that dream, that desire for pleasure, it's a little bit easier to go towards it. So, okay, great. Pretend we're like, I'm in Erica. I want the vision. I'm down. I'm setting the intention every day. I'm going to give you a quick tool. What I like to do is I call it the pleasure scale. And throughout the day, sometimes I set an alarm. Sometimes I just check in. And I check in with myself and I see on a scale, am I feeling crunchy? Am I feeling dusty, crusty? Am I feeling like, oh, maybe my shoulder, like I'm just like, ugh. Or am I feeling turned on? And turned on doesn't mean sexually. It just means I'm alive. I'm present in the moment. I'm jamming. I'm feeling good. Where are we on the scale? And there's no judgment. There's no wrongness. We just get to get curious about this. Where are we on the scale? And if you are feeling crunchy and dusty, crusty, as we do, because we're humans, like a dial, how can we dial it up more? So I'll give you a baby example. Pretend we're working and, you know, our shoulders are to our ears and we're hunched over and we're just like, oh, this stinks. It's like, okay, hold on. If we want to just dial it like 1 or 2 dials, what would that look like? And maybe for someone, it's like, I'm going to sit back, take a breath. Maybe I'm going to get a tea while I work. Maybe I'm going to listen to that beautiful music on Spotify while I work, you know? So it doesn't have to be, I always joke, it doesn't have to be you in a chaise lounge being fed grapes. So we love that. Like it could be simple things that we can change in the moment. And I want to connect this really quick, especially if we've suffered any violence or abuse. Why this is so beautiful is we don't have to go to 0 to 60. Even 1 notch of like, oh, it's safe to enjoy this tea. It's safe to really enjoy this beautiful pie. I'm worthy and deserving of feeling good. Why it's so beautiful is it almost like helps us stack, and it tells our brain and our body that we're worthy and we're deserving and we're safe. Because I never want to blow out someone's nervous system, right? Or I never want to blow someone out like, whoa, this feels so foreign. So we do these little stacking system where it's okay, all is well. I'm safe. And we do that. We build on top of one another.
Yeah, that's a really great way to start it. Little steps, baby steps are always, you know, don't think that, you know, and pleasure, it doesn't have to be sexual pleasure either. I mean, I know we've touched on that, but, you know, it's just the pleasure of tasting the chocolate, or pleasure of just having nothing to do, or having your shoulders rubbed, or, you know, pleasure is such a huge word and a huge experience, because we can find pleasure in so many things. It's you know, it's an amazing thing. But yeah, you're right. You've got to check in with yourself. You've got to find out what makes you happy, what gives you that pleasure. Because, you know, some people don't like chocolate, so, you know, it's no good trying to have a bit of chocolate if they don't like it. So you know, so I guess the little baby steps that we're taking along the way, but how can we, you know, integrate that into our everyday life? Because sometimes it's not so easy. You know, you may have a really busy job, and you might have, you know, house full of kids, or you might be going to school, all those sorts of things that take away the pleasure of life. So how can we check in with ourselves and make sure that we are, you know, nurturing ourselves, and to find that little bit of pleasure each day?
I love that. I almost treat it like a game. And you know, we're high achievers. So, right, like so many of us are high achievers, and we think in our brain, I need to do this grandiose pleasure. You know, like I need to wear a bow. No. So the dare is doing something so small. And it sounds so silly because it's such a silly, easy concept. Like, oh no, is that really going to change something? But like it does, you know, like it energetically. I always say when we tap into pleasure, it's almost like an energetic chiropractic adjustment. Like it's like like we get re-snap back in. So here's my little tool. It's called pleasure research. And I got this from my teacher, Regina Thomashower, Mama Gina. And why I want to call upon this is the last thing that you just said, which is so beautiful, is like you said, some people might not like chocolate. And the beautiful thing is we all have our own pleasure blueprint. And what's great is if you so choose, you can learn that blueprint. You know what I mean? So often we're like, I guess I should have the chocolate. I guess I should get a massage. That's pleasurable. It's like, that might not be your pleasure. So it's a privilege to explore, like, what is your blueprint? Because that's what makes you you. So here's what I want to say about infusing it into crazy schedules and being a productive human and doing things. Like, we don't have hours and hours to give to this. So pleasure research is almost like putting on your childlike wonder glasses. So instead of being in the mundane, right? Like I talk to people and they're always like, you know, on Tuesdays, I always have a turkey sandwich. And then I go to yoga at 5. And I'm like, great, I don't want to take that away from you. If that feels good, like I love that. But can we get out of autopilot and just like start to put on our childlike glasses and explore? Like instead of having that turkey sandwich every Tuesday, what would it be like to have roast beef? What would it be like to have sushi? Like I don't need anything crazy. Or, you know, every commute to work, I listen to a podcast. Love that. We don't have to take it away. What would it be like to listen to music? So what's so beautiful about pleasure is we can make it accessible. It doesn't need to be this whole thing. We can really integrate it into our daily living. I just want us to start to research and start to be conscious about, okay, cool. Where can I infuse this throughout my day and throughout my life?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a number of guests on the podcast that, about healing, and it is really based on the person. Yeah, is right. It's a blueprint. It's a personal blueprint, and it all depends on your personal preferences and likes, dislikes. But as a DV survivor, and I know we touched on this earlier, how can we use this blueprint, especially when you're afraid of everything?
Oh, that's beautiful. I think knowing how to honor where you're at, and go with me on this, like we said, not comparing your journey, your pleasure journey, to anyone else's. And so if it's today, I only have capacity to really be present to 30 seconds of the song, and then I am getting anxiety, I have to stop. Great, great. And a huge part of my work is celebration. And so what I invite everyone to do is, if they are like, I do want to start the pleasure journey very slowly and safely, I encourage everyone to start to celebrate. Like, okay, I took 5 breaths and that's what I could do today. I'm so proud of myself. Because so often, right, like we get on the comparison train, or we get on, oh, it should look like this. No, this is your journey. This could be so healing, so powerful, like a warm hug. We don't need to force ourselves into anything. Like, you get to take your time, you get to go slow. This is your journey. So my invitation is, celebrate the things that you think do not need to be celebrated. I'm like, really? Just that? I listened to one song? Yes, you did. Yes, you did. So my invitation is to really integrate celebrating ourselves throughout the process and making ourselves right, of like, that was enough for today and I'm proud of myself. And tomorrow I'm going to try again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because it can be a really hard journey for those that are, still in the situation, or have just come out of it, and haven't learned those really valuable skills on how to love yourself, and how to just take a moment just to smell the roses, because you can, and you've survived.
Exactly. And I think you named something. It could just be, I know you're saying metaphorically, but it also could be quite literally allowing yourself to just smell the roses. And that's enough for today. You know what I mean? If that's what feels safe and available, just to have that one touch point of, okay, I'm worthy and deserving of having good things. And then if it's like, oh, feelings come up, okay. But like, it's just creating those like micro moments of us jumping in to that healing portal.
Absolutely, because for a lot of us that have been through it, it's quite often difficult to feel safe, when you've come out the other side, because it's a lot of things are so triggering, and so just allowing yourself to find that, even if it's only 5 seconds of your day, it's something that gives you pleasure, whether it's tasting the chocolate or smelling the roses, is so important in your self-care journey.
It is. It is. And I know we've touched upon this earlier, but I have the chills a little bit. When we start to really work these tools safely, we start to reclaim ourselves of, I've always been worthy and deserving. I'm worthy and deserving, and I deserve to be safe. And so this work can be so powerful, and it takes so much bravery. So anyone even listening to this podcast, I bow to you. Like, I bow to you, because I understand how vulnerable, how, oh my gosh. So like you said, triggering emotions can come up. but even just listening and saying, maybe one day or maybe tomorrow, like that is powerful. That is powerful.
Yeah, it certainly is. I love that. It was great. Erica, where can people find you if they want to work with you or find out more about what you do?
Yeah, please. So I have so many free resources. Again, especially like we talked about, this is can be a very hot topic. A lot of people, most people come to my work feeling like, oh my gosh. So I love to give free resources to make people feel safe. And if sometimes you don't even have to talk to me, like I want you to have all the resources, all the contact points. So I have an ebook, I have a podcast, and I also have a blog, and that can be accessed. So you don't have to talk to me. You don't have to look at me. You can go on your own journey. And that's accessed through www.wethelight.org. All the ton of the free resources. If something resonated in this conversation, every month I do like to give away free discovery calls. I call them free assessments for me to hold you. And it literally is free. I'm not saying it's free, wink, wink. It genuinely is free. And it's a mini session. And we could walk through what we talked about today. We can create your own blueprint. We could slowly and safely open the door to integrate pleasure into your life. It's a beautiful call, a 60 minutes. At the end, if we want to talk about working together, great. If you're like, that was enough, great. If you want other resources, great. So that really is a complimentary call. I do that to be of a place of service because I want to support and hold everyone. And again, you could get that on the website, which is wethelight.org. And it says book your free call. And I would be honored to hold whoever feels called to. That would be fabulous.
Oh, Erica, that's such a generous offer. Thank you so much. And please, anyone listening to this podcast, feel free to take up Erica on her offer at wethelight.org and, book a session with her, because honestly, from what you've heard from her today, she's full of information. She's full of great energy, and she will help you find that place that you need to get to feel safe and to feel honored and to honor yourself.
Love it.
Erica, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Healing Through Love. You can get further resources, see the show notes, or simply reach out to us via our website at htlaustralia.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to your company next time on the Healing Through Love podcast.